Minister, this House can't do the work that Westminster does. What happened when 4 government TDs said, on an issue of conscience, we're not going to go with this? You know what happened in Westminster? They wouldn't have lost the whip. They wouldn't have got thrown out. Deputy Matthews wouldn't have got thrown off the Finance Committee. Last year in Westminster, government MPs voted against government 40% of the time. 40% of the time. And they don't lose the whip. This is the only parliament in the democratic world that is run like this. There is a consensus amongst political scientists, and you scoffed at this last time in committee, Minister, that we, would look at the opinions of experts. There is a consensus amongst political scientists that Dáil Éireann is the most controlled parliament in the developed world. So I would put it to you, Minister, that I agree that I would like this Dáil and the Oireachtas to be able to do some of the stuff that can be done in Westminster. But until you relinquish this obsessive control over your own backbenchers, we won't be able to do that. And indeed, it's reciprocated. The Finance Committee has just set up a subcommittee to look at taxation loopholes at my request. It's going to be very important work. At our first meeting, 1 government TD showed up. Because when they show up to committee stage, they're not allowed to speak. They're not allowed to table amendments against the government. They're not allowed to say what they want. And therefore, the public don't trust us. The latest Bertelsmann study on the public's trust in their elected representatives show that we've got one of the worst, again, in the developed world. Why? Because there's so much control extended over party TDs. Now, I'm not suggesting that there should be no whip for a second. Of course, you have to have some whip to do the business of politics, but not the way it is applied in this House. And therefore, these amendments are important because they say even if you have a cabinet controlling 51, 52, 60% of the Dáil, there's still enough members of Dáil Éireann who can instigate a committee of inquiry.
I came into politics because I was interested in a political party. I didn't expect to be an elected member originally, but I subscribed to the views of the party, and we debate vigorously within a party. We're not sole traders. I don't come in here as a sole trader. And I have to argue my case within the confines, first of the parliamentary party, and ultimately the confines of the conference of my party. And they make policy. So the notion that we're all sole traders and that everybody can amble in here as they like is not the way that political parties work. And I know that's not the way for Fianna Fáil, normally, except when the exigencies of the situation, shall we say kindly, require it to be otherwise. They normally require the consensus view within the party to prevail. And it's like everything else. It's like if you're in any organisation, you have a vigorous democratic debate. So once the majority decide, that becomes the policy of the organisation. Deputy Donnelly went on to talk about, as I said, the control of the Oireachtas, the control of the executive over the Oireachtas. Let me say this. The most vigorous debate happens within the parliamentary parties. And that determines what happens here. The rows, the clamour, the strenuous debate that happens within the Fine Gael parliamentary party, the Labour parliamentary party, I'm sure the Sinn Féin parliamentary party, the Fianna Fáil party, that determines, that's the discourse of it.
Minister, no doubt we'll continue to debate this, but I have to say it's a bit like coming to a meeting of the Flat Earth Society. You come in here and you see the way everyone says, no, it has to be done this way. It couldn't possibly happen any other way. And you say, well, it happens very successfully in this impossible other way over there, and in that country, and in that parliament over there. And all you get in reply is, no, it couldn't possibly work. There'd be chaos. All of the debate has to happen within the parties, away from the public. Heaven forbid, in our national parliament, TDs would be allowed to come in and disagree with each other from within the same parties. Now, the reality is that the current rules, which give this cabinet, any Irish cabinet, more control over its parliament than any other developed country suit whoever comes into power. So you who've spent a long time in opposition will have railed against a lot of these things. In the programme for government, get rid of the guillotine. Yeah, but let's not. In fact, let's use it 3 times today because it's useful. Yet let's use it on all the sensitive bills because it's useful. The reality is, you get into power and you think, you know what? Actually, this level of control is pretty useful. Quite like it. I'm going to keep it. You know, the government chief whip described the government's efforts at political reform as deplorable on national radio. You know? And what is the result? The result is nobody trusts us. The Irish people trust us less than virtually anyone else in the developed world trusts their politicians. Why? Because they know when they're listening to government TDs or opposition TDs in parties that they're not necessarily hearing what those people believe. I have debated with government backbenchers, good government backbenchers, on television and on radio and in here, on issues where I have listened to them debate points that they have told me before the debate they do not agree with. But they have to go on and they have to toe the line. They have to say, no, 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 you're completely wrong. This is, thank you, this is the way it is. And they know that they are not representing their view, and the people aren't stupid, the people know as well. So I'll finish on this specific to the amendment, if I can.
But you had 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. Give me another 30 seconds. Your argument, Minister, if you would, thank you, is that if the government will do the right thing, if there is an overwhelming demand from the people, what if there's not an overwhelming demand? What if it's a really important technical issue that we in the House know should be investigated, but the public don't really care about it because it's boring and technical? What happens then? Right? The government will not investigate these things. I'll leave it there. Thank you for your patience.